All right. Anybody coming down the hall? No? Oh, there's Frank. That closes it.
They announced 12:30, that's why we
They announced 12:30?
first, and then they said it would be shortly, so we all started.
12:30. Okay. Anybody coming down the hall? Two went in the washroom. All right. All right. Well, listen. Let's go ahead and start. Just a reminder: tomorrow at 10 a.m., the Secretary General will deliver his remarks to the General Assembly on his priorities for 2025, the year that is already underway. We will be circulating those remarks to you under embargo as soon as possible. We will keep you updated about possible interaction between the Secretary General and yourselves, which will depend on events beyond our immediate control, as you can imagine. Turning to Ukraine, our Undersecretary General for Humanitarian Affairs and Emergency Relief Coordinator, Tom Fletcher, visited the Kharkiv region today. He traveled to the village of Shevchenko, which is about 30 kilometers from the front lines, and also the city of Kupiansk, which is on the front lines. We are working with our local partners in those areas to provide transport for people living close to the front lines. Many of them are older with limited mobility so that they can access basic services. The transportation assistance is partly funded through the Ukrainian Humanitarian Fund, which is managed by the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. At a press conference with the governor of Kharkiv region, as well joined by his colleague, the High Commissioner for Refugees, Filippo Grandi, Mr. Fletcher underscored our sustained commitment to stay and deliver for people as the war rages on around them. Mr. Fletcher said he will continue tomorrow in the capital, Kyiv, where on Thursday, Mr. Fletcher will launch, along with Mr. Grandi, the humanitarian refugee response plans for 2025. This will also be done jointly with the government of Ukraine. Today, our special envoy for Yemen, Hans Grunberg, concluded his visit to Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. He met with Yemen's Prime Minister, Ahmed bin Mubarak, and the Foreign Minister, Sheikh al-Zindani, as well as with other senior Saudi officials. Discussions focus on the development in Yemen and the region and its impact on the Yemeni peace process. It was also an opportunity to emphasize the urgency to de-escalate tensions and focus on the needs of the Yemeni population. Mr. Grunberg underscored that the roadmap remains a viable path towards a nationwide ceasefire. He also met, while in Riyadh, with the ambassadors of the permanent members of the Security Council to Yemen and stressed that the unity of the Council is paramount to achieving a way forward for a peaceful and comprehensive resolution to the conflict. Mr. Grunberg will brief the Security Council tomorrow via video link, and he will provide more details on his ongoing efforts. We'll obviously share those remarks with you. Turning to Syria, the High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, is in Damascus today as part of his visit to both Syria and Lebanon. During his brief two-day country visit, Mr. Turk is scheduled to meet officials as well as representatives of civil society organizations, member of the diplomatic corps, and UN colleagues. Meanwhile, across the country, we and our partners are reporting that more than 2.4 million people have received bread between the end of November and January 12th. More than 380,000 people also received food assistance, including hot meals. OCHA says that the humanitarian response there continues amid security and logistical challenges. Our partners are also continuing to distribute blanket, mattresses, and winter clothes to families who've been displaced. Explosive ordinances remain a threat across Syria since late November, and as of January 12th, which was 2 days ago, our partners have identified 120 areas with explosive remnants of war in Idlib, in Aleppo, in Hama, in Deir ez-Zor, and Latakia. Since November 26, our partners have also carried out 516 clearance operations. Today, UNICEF called for an increased humanitarian demining efforts to remove the deadly remnants of war and to make communities safe once again. Meanwhile, OCHA is concerned about rising fuel costs, which makes it difficult for people who need to travel to safe spaces and health facilities. Increasing fuel prices are also affecting humanitarian operations due to the surging costs of running generators, vehicles, and heating equipment. Turning to Gaza, the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs tells us in the past 5 days have seen ongoing attacks on displacement shelters in Gaza, with significant casualties reported in Jabalia, Al-Balad, Khan Yunis, and Khan Yunis. Meanwhile, OCHA also informs us that Israeli authorities continue to deny UN-led efforts to reach people with vital assistance. Today, 2 attempts to reach hospitals in North Gaza Governorate were denied. The missions were meant to evacuate patients from the Al-Auda and Indonesian hospitals to deliver food, water, fuel, hygiene kits, and as well as cleaning supplies, which are critical to hospitals. As you'll recall, that access to Al-Auda Hospital in Jabalia remains extremely limited as the Israeli siege in North Gaza Governorate continues. Al-Auda is the only hospital that is still partially functioning in North Gaza Governorate, but it faces critical shortages of the most basic items, including fuel and medical supplies. Meanwhile, the Indonesian hospital remains out of service. Essential equipment has been destroyed, and the facility lacks water, it lacks electricity, it lacks hygiene supplies, and lacks adequate staff. The UN was able to reach, the last time we were able to reach the hospital with limited supplies was late last month. And in Gaza Governorate, 5 bakeries supported by the World Food Program are now operational after one reopened last week. However, these bakeries are functioning at half capacity due to lack of fuel. Partners are distributing flour to households, but access constraints and supply shortages could jeopardize future deliveries. Also in Gaza Governorate, World Health Organization reached Al-Shifa Hospital early this week. The agency tells us that they delivered 9,700 liters of much-needed fuel, as well as blood and plasma units for distribution to other hospitals in the vicinity. The WHO team also transferred 3 patients and 8 companions for onward medical evacuation outside Gaza. Meanwhile, UNICEF and the Palestinian Water Authority distributed more than 8,000 hygiene kits to some 50,000 people in shelters and other areas where displaced people have sought safety. We and our partners are doing everything possible to reach Palestinians in need with extremely limited resources. However, ongoing hostilities and violent armed looting, as well as systematic access restrictions, continue to severely constrain our efforts to reach those in need. Road damage, unexploded ordnances, fuel shortages, and a lack of adequate telecommunications equipment are also hampering our work. It is imperative that vital aid and commercial goods can enter Gaza through all available border crossings without delay at a scale needed. And Sigrid Kaag, who, as you know, is our senior humanitarian relief coordinator, held meetings in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv over the last 2 days, where she met with the Israeli ministers of defense and strategic affairs. She was also in Ramallah to meet with the deputy Palestinian prime minister and another minister in the presidential cabinet. In her meetings, she discussed the possible ceasefire and any UN-relevant engagement. She also spoke by phone with the foreign minister of Egypt this morning to discuss the same issue. And just to flag some, frankly, eye-popping numbers from Haiti, the International Organization for Migration is telling us that more than 1 million people are now internally displaced in that country. Half of those displaced are children. That's what IOM data is saying. To give you a better sense of how much the situation has deteriorated, in December of 2023, more than a year ago, 315,000 men, women, and children were displaced. There are now 3 times more people uprooted in Haiti, including many who've been displaced multiple times. In the capital alone, displacement has nearly doubled, rising by 87%. And as you can imagine, the majority of those displaced originate from Port-au-Prince and its surrounding area. Many are seeking refuge in Haiti's provinces, overwhelming local communities and straining the limited support services that exist there. In the capital, IOM tells us there are now 108 displacement sites, which are severely overcrowded and lack adequate access to essential services such as food, clean water, sanitation, and education. Compounding this crisis, 200,000 Haitians were deported back to Haiti last year. Floods in November and December last year also impacted more than 315,000 people across the country. Despite these challenges, we and our partners continue to respond. WFP assisted 1.7 million people across Haiti in 2024 with all sorts of support. IOM today reported they provided access to 18 million liters of clean water to uprooted people in camps. They also rehabilitated various pumps in local communities. However, much more is required to meet the needs of Haiti. In 2025, we and our partners will need $900 million to support 4 million people. Lastly, this is appropriate just before lunch, we have another member state that paid its dues in full. That brings us, that makes it onto the honor roll and brings us up to 8. This country is the location of the first ever street food stall to be awarded a coveted Michelin star. The name of the street food stall is the Chan Han Meng's Hong Kong soya sauce chicken and rice noodle stall. Singapore. So we thank our friends in Singapore. We wish we could have some of that food for lunch, and we will answer your questions. Gabi.
Steph, one on Haiti. Given the internally displacement numbers in Haiti, does the Secretary General think that countries should temporarily at least halt deporting Haitians back to the country, given the situation?
Look, I think deporting Haitians back to a country that is in the situation that it is, where the basic services are almost non-existent, where violence is rampant, is not a direction that countries should go in.
And on the Gaza ceasefire talks, has the Secretary General spoken to anyone in the last 24 hours since your last briefing about it? And second, are the ceasefire talks having any effect on his upcoming trip to this week to Lebanon?
No, I mean, right now his travel schedule is unchanged. He has been briefed by a number of people on his staff who've been in touch with various people who are involved in the talks, and he's keeping abreast of it very closely. Amélie.
Thanks, Steph. Follow up on Haiti as well. Considering the deteriorating situation and the fact that the MSS is still not deployed and doesn't seem to make any difference, does the Secretary General now think that the mission should be transformed into a PKO?
Look, at the end, it will be a Security Council decision. I think we have a structure already in place. We have boots on the ground. Let's support what already exists. Let's expand what already exists to try to assist the Haitian people. And obviously, the solution to Haiti's problem runs through Haiti's political leaders who need to focus on the best possible way to bring stability back to their country. Edie, then Benny. And then sorry.
Thank you, Steph. A follow-up on Sigrid Kaag talks. You said that the issue that she was discussing was a possible UN role in a ceasefire. Can you elaborate on what kind of a role
Sure.
that might be?
The discussions that Sigrid is having, that others are having with interlocutors in the region, notably Mohamed Hadi, Tom Fletcher, and others, are focused on our humanitarian operations, right? And the fact that we stand ready to obviously increase our humanitarian operations, while fully realizing that a lot of the challenges that currently exist may remain after the ceasefire, and some of them, especially on the security end, may get more challenging. So we're going in there focused on trying to bring solutions, but with our eyes wide open is the challenges that will exist.
And a follow-up on that, are these discussions including discussions on security arrangements so that humanitarian aid can be delivered safely?
Well, the best possible protection from humanitarians comes from the community itself, right? And I think we have, so that is the way humanitarian operates. Obviously, we are very much aware of the security challenges that will continue when and after a ceasefire is announced.
And a quick follow-up on North Gaza. When was the last time any food was delivered to the broader population there?
I will check with you. Benny, Evelyn, Maggie, Deji.
So speaking of, am I close enough to the mic? Speaking of coordination between the UN and Israel, the main conduit is an outfit called Kogat.
Mm-hmm.
Its commander, Rassan Arian, was visiting Italy.
Mm-hmm.
There's a warrant on for his arrest in Italy. Does the UN care?
That's an issue between Israel and Italy.
Would it be advantageous to the UN if he is in custody in Italy rather than on the border of Gaza?
Again, I think that's a bilateral issue. Evelyn.
Okay, can you hear me now? Good morning, Steph. Good afternoon. On Ukraine, do you know whether Mr. Fletcher will talk about the exchange of prisoners, which seems to be an issue now?
I'm not aware that's on his agenda, but again, he will have a press conference, if I recall what I said, I think tomorrow in Kyiv, along with Filippo Grandi and Ukrainian government officials.
Also, on Syria, I assume that the envoy, that Mr. Turk is going to talk about women. Do you have any?
Mr. Turk, the High Commissioner for Human Rights, is indeed in Damascus, and the issue of inclusiveness, which means obviously different racial, religious groups, ethnic groups, and obviously the role of women is high on everyone's agenda.
Yeah, no, because it looks like there are parts of the country where Sharia law is being instituted. And one quick one on Haiti. Do you have any news on the expansion of the troops?
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
Margaret.
Thanks, Steph. Just further to yesterday on Lebanon, on the Secretary General's travels, do you have any updates for us on what's scheduled for while he's there? And has he spoken by phone yet with Nawaf Salam?
I don't believe he's spoken by phone with. As far as I know, he's not spoken yet to Nawaz Salam. He looks forward to seeing him in Beirut, and obviously we expect those political meetings in Beirut to take place on Saturday.
And is he going to have a press conference while he's there, do you know?
Yes, ma'am, he will. We'll share all those details by email as much as we can. Deji, China Central Television.
Thank you, Steph. I'm not going to announce your full name. So yesterday I asked about the plan for Secretary General in Lebanon. Today I'm going to ask again. Now, since Mr. Turk was in Damascus, will the Secretary General also visit Damascus? There's a possibility, but
no. I'm happy. I'd love for people to self-answer because it saves me time.
Okay, so there is a possibility.
Is that a question mark or a full stop?
Is there a possibility?
Is there a possibility? Sorry, I misheard you, Deji.
Sorry.
No, the Secretary General has no plans at this time to travel to Syria on this round of travel to the region.
Okay, second follow-up. Edie just asked about the security situation in Gaza. Let's say yesterday you said that the UN has not directly involved in the negotiation, but surely I think has the UN also raised some let's say, conditions or terms to the interlocutors
I don't think
about the humanitarian situation? Like, how should the humanitarian assistance go in during the ceasefire?
There has not been conditions, right? Because we are determined to deliver as much humanitarian aid at largest scale possible as we possibly can, right? We have raised a number of concerns that we think could make our work a little bit more difficult, but I would not use the term conditions.
Okay, one last question. Do you have any new update on the Israeli laws bills on UNRWA?
No, we
Did you have any
we
plans
continue to
now?
seek full clarification.
There's still no
We
full
continue to seek full
clarifications.
clarification on how they will be implemented. Margaret.
Just one more. With SG's travel, Monday he was expected to brief at the ministerial level Middle East
And he
quarterly
will.
debate. He will be back for
He will
that,
be
or he'll
back.
do it remotely?
He will be back en personne, physically. It will be him. Gabriel.
Thanks, Steph. Is the Secretary General going to attend Trump's inauguration?
There are no plans, and I'm not aware in the last quarter of a century, as much as scares me to say these things, of a Secretary General ever attending the inauguration of a President of the United States. And he will be briefing the Security Council. Thank you, Maggie.
But,
yes,
but
exactly.
it's not
No.
But it's not unprecedented for someone from the UN,
Well,
a high-level
I'm not.
official,
Yeah,
to
there's
attend
there's
an
no plans for
inauguration.
him to attend.
Okay,
the
no problem.
inauguration.
And
Okay.
has he spoken to Steve Witkoff, the Trump's UN?
no.
Sorry, Trump's.
No.
No.
I know what you mean, and no.
Last follow-up is: do you think clearly Trump's Middle East envoy has made some headway on the Gaza peace talks? That appears to be clear. Do you think it was a mistake for the Secretary General not to engage with the Trump administration yet, given the fact he and his people clearly have influence over a conflict that directly affects your organization?
I think it is incumbent for any Secretary General to engage with one administration from one country at a time. Benny, Abney.
First of all, has Secretary General been invited to the inauguration?
I'm not aware that he's had. I'm not aware of any of his predecessors ever
So
been.
basically, we'll meet the new president of Lebanon, but not the new president of the United States. Is that correct? Yes.
Well, he will meet the president of Lebanon most likely on the Saturday.
Yeah.
Before
Not on the same day. I mean,
that's what
this week.
I don't know what your point is, but anyway, I'm happy
no
to
point,
answer your
no
questions.
Point.
No point.
The
That's
question
fine.
is, since he's going to Lebanon, there are reports of new conflagrations on the border. Is he going to the border at all? Will he be addressing those?
Yeah, I mean,
situations?
we addressed those concerns in the briefing yesterday. You can expect the Secretary General to go meet with UN peacekeepers. Thank you all. Unless anybody has a question online. Yes, okay, sorry, because I don't have my phone. Abdelhamid,
Okay.
and I can't see who the other person is, but Abdelhamid, you go.
Thank you. Stéphane, you just said significant number of casualties. Can you explain what do you mean by significant? What makes a number of killed people significant?
A large number. I don't have the exact number because it hasn't been communicated to us, but I think a large number is significant. You know, and let's be honest, the loss of one life is significant to the community, to that family. Your other question, sir?
On his trip to Lebanon, would the SGB will take another step to jump into Syria and meet with the new interim leadership in that country?
Abdelhamid, I just addressed that. Deji asked the question about 4.5 minutes ago, and I said no.
Thank you.
Okay, there's somebody else who wanted to ask a question, but I can't see who it is.
Michelle.
Michelle.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead. This is what happens when you don't turn on your camera, Michelle.
Oh, well, this is the way we roll. I had a couple of quick follow-ups on your answers to the questions on aid in Gaza. For those outside the UN world, can you just elaborate a little bit on the security challenges that you're saying might still be faced after
Well,
a ceasefire deal? How realistic is a surge of aid? What kind of planning is the UN doing for that? Are you talking to the US? Are you talking to incoming Trump officials about that specifically?
Okay. I'm not aware of specific contacts with the incoming administration on that. We are in touch both on the ground and a more global level with key interlocutors. We are in intense, the UN system as a whole is in intense planning and preparation for when a ceasefire comes into to play and how we can increase the aid. Obviously, things that will continue to be challenging because we don't have answers to all those questions is the number of crossings. What crossings will be open? The security situation itself in Gaza. We've been talking for weeks, if not more, about armed groups and armed gangs and criminal elements. Those will likely remain. Unexploded ordinances. All of those things will be challenges. The welfare of our staff as well, our national staff, their ability. So there are all these challenges that we have very much in our mind, while our goal continues to be finding the solutions to how to upscale the delivery at a level that is needed.
And is the UN also contingency planning, I guess, on this front for not having the use of UNRWA staff in Gaza?
I think we are looking at the situation with our eyes wide open and all options. Deji.
Yes, does the Secretary General have any positions, or is he concerned about the biggest social platform in the States? Facebook is ending its fact-checking operation.
Of course, and I would refer you to what our High Commissioner for Human Rights said a few days ago. We've always been very clear on the responsibility that any social media platform has in ensuring that the facts are true and ensuring that misinformation is not promoted, and that people feel safe, right? And I think we need to have platforms where there is where freedom of expression thrives, and that means having very diverse voices without enabling harm or misinformation.
Just a logistical question, Stéphane. Will Mr. Colin Stewart meet with the press anytime this week, like a stakeout or
That's a good question.
Yeah.
We will ask.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you all. Hasta la vista.